We have a very special guest star in the house today. The handsome and witty and insightful Dave White is here. Husband of Alonso. You may hear him in the background sometimes chiming in with his witticisms, or if you are a fan of the Linoleum Knife network of content, you know his growl, what do they call you? Are you the Velvet Buzzsaw?
I was referred to once as the Velvet Lawnmower, and I, that's adorable, I suppose.
Yeah.
So,
sure. It's an ethos. You've embraced it. It's good. So Dave, thank you so much for stepping in and hanging out with me today. Alonso is working on his latest book and finishing
he's got a book deadline. Yeah.
He does. And so in the next few weeks, we're going to have folks filling in. So I'm thrilled to have you here today to talk with me about this great little indie called 1001.
All right, we're going to go to Harlem, where I grew up at. The city had him. He's not supposed to be with me. Can't you get locked up for that? Not if you keep it to yourself.
But first, if you've not subscribed, we'd love to have you. It's summer movie season. All the big stuff is coming, but we will always take a moment here for some of the smaller gems like 1001. So we'd love to have you join our little community here. Thanks so much. 1001 has been in theaters for a couple of weeks now. Hopefully it's playing someplace near you. It is a story set over the course of about a decade, like mid-90s to mid-2000s in New York. It follows a woman named Inez, who is fresh out of Rikers, and she goes back to her neighborhood in Brooklyn to claim the little boy that she had to take time away from to go to prison for a while. She's played by Teyana Taylor in just a breathtaking and alive performance. And it's what happens with her and her little boy over the course of a decade as they try to forge a life for themselves. He is played at ages like 6 and then 13 and then 17, I want to say, by 3 different actors. And there's so much realism and also just humanity in this story. It is set against the backdrop of a changing New York, the Giuliani years and then the Bloomberg years, and how that meant a cleaning up of New York and a prosperity in New York and a vibrancy. But what does that mean for average folks, especially people of color, just trying to survive day to day? So this is pretty great, I thought. What did you think, Dave?
This is a great little film. And I say little because we tend to talk about that. We tend to use that word when we mean films that are very intimate. And this is a really accomplished hybrid of intimate, personal filmmaking, but set against history. I kept thinking as I was watching it, I was like, this is Les Miserables. This is one character. Yeah, this is one character who is pitted against history and who is struggling against forces that are not of their own making. So, it's focused on this one young woman and her family, the flabbergasting Teyana Taylor, who I first learned of in 2011 in Medea's Big Happy Family.
Oh, is she in that too? Okay.
She is the scene-stealingest, most blisteringly funny person in Medea's Big Happy Family, which is the best Medea movie, I think.
And you're the expert, so I wouldn't question you on that.
I've seen them all. But it's focused on her and her family and how she is struggling to keep everything together for the sake of her child. But it is happening in the context of this ambient political change going on all throughout, like Giuliani and Bloomberg, you mentioned, who you hear them on TV, you hear them on radio, you hear them talking about how we're going to do this for the city and we're going to do that for the city. And what it means for poor people and working class people and people of color is stuff like stop and frisk and stuff like, tickets for jaywalking and things that are punitive measures for everyday life that have nothing to do with crimes. They have everything to do with, controlling people and pushing them up against a wall, literally and figuratively.
This is the feature filmmaking debut of A.V. Rockwell. And There's so much that she gets about just the rhythms of daily life that inform what this nuclear tiny family unit is like, in terms of how so much of what they do takes place in the outside, right? They have a little apartment in Harlem, and that's changing too as the neighborhood gets gentrified. It does not mean good things for them. And how so much of what matters to them, like celebrations, like arguments, takes place in the world, and the energy of that, and just the tactile details of the block where they live and the interactions, and the way that her camera like will kind of make you feel like you're eavesdropping on them from afar. Like we'll watch them from across the street or like through a car window. And so we're sort of always grasping to know a little bit more about what's that interaction like? What's that energy like?
Yeah. The filmmaking here is so sure of itself that nobody ever stops to give you an expository monologue about, do you remember that time that this happened and now we have to focus on this and this stuff that less assured films will drop right in a very clunky way. You follow all the characters in this film through not just, snippets of conversation, but gesture and where they're going, what they're doing, who they're reacting to. Teyana Taylor's face will tell you so much that words are not telling you at all. And this has to do with, the filmmaking style. The cinematographer is named Eric Yu. I'm reading my notes here.
Okay.
And he gives it all this very documentary-like, sort of on-the-ground running camera work. There are very precise compositions. They convey everything, warmth and the mood of characters, character detail, community cohesion, political POV that, again, it's never spelled out, but you see it happening all around you. And the disruption of all of that stuff by people who slowly emerge into the frame, who feel like they might be benign, but they are not.
Oh, not at all. And at its core, you have this mother and son just fighting to stay together, fighting for a better future. She had grown up in the foster system herself, and so she didn't want the same thing to happen to her son. And so you see, she makes choices that, like, as a mom, I was sometimes horrified by, but I understood them. And what's interesting about this film is that it never judges her for the choices that she makes in the name of creating a better life for this kid. So
right. No. It would never judge her, because what it's actually judging is the world around her.
Yeah.
It is judging the politically motivated, ruin of poor working class people of color. It is judging the infusion of diabolical capital that has come in and pushed out people who live and work in a city. And it's not just happening in New York, it's happening in every big city in the United States. It is a film about survival, although it is not poverty tourism, which I am always on my guard about when I see a film where characters are sort of struggling to get by. It is a really, really focused story, and it's so moving as well. I don't want to give away things. There's a secret involved in the narrative that we come to understand, and the reasons behind why people have done what they have done are all in the service of, keeping themselves and their loved ones together. It is really a beautiful film. Yeah,
and I found the ending, although it's open for interpretation as far as what happens to these characters, I found it quite hopeful, surprisingly hopeful. So, what's your number?
Oh, the number thing. I'm even less adept at this than Alonso. 9.
I'll say 9 too. Let's make it easy and tidy. So 1001 is playing in lots of theaters. Please go find it. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.